Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to BAK. This is Unfiltered. This is your boy Gooch with the homies Keys and Double A. And today, we're going to cover our way too early 53-man projection. Stick around, this is going to be fun. I'm going to tell them where they're wrong and I'm right, and we'll get into it.
That we will. All right. So I think we already agreed on quarterbacks being Mahomes and Henney.
Mahomes, Henney, and Birch to the practice squad.
Birch?
Well,
Is that his
Bouchel,
name? Birch?
Bouchel. I'm actually putting Bouchel on my 53, so I'm differing with you guys there.
Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, he's already one spot light. I'll go
I think
running
I'll be
back.
fine.
I've got Clyde, Rojo, Ely, Pacheco, and as my four running backs.
And including Burton there.
Well, you said
Fullback
Burt
as running
fullback
back.
was a completely different category.
That's how I think of it. Yeah.
There's my
I
four,
had.
7 or 6. I'm sorry.
I'm up to 7. Yeah, I have the same ones, and I included Ely because he does have that in the Chiefs roster. He does have that running back / wide receiver designation, and since Brett Veach made a point to say they'd only have 5 or 6 receivers on the roster, I could see where a player that offers them the versatility to play both positions would definitely look tempting. And then if he can play special teams, to me that really helps make him a lock. If they only have 5 or 6 receivers, either way, having him as kind of the plus one, because he can play that and running back, I think really helps him out. And if he can contribute on special teams, I think that could be his ticket in for those reasons.
The only difference I have is Gore over Pacheco.
And I think Gore put enough on film last year that I can't see him sticking on a practice squad or even making waivers to get on there. But, I mean, who knows? Well, I think we all just say Burton for fullback, and we can go ahead and skip to tight end here. And I have Travis, Noah Gray, and Jody Fortson. I'm going with 3 tight ends.
I've actually got 4: Kelsey, Fortson, Bell, and Gray.
I've got 4: Kelsey, Fortson, Gray, and Ogini. Whatever.
I don't know.
Gooch is just making up names now. You know, I don't think they'll have 4 tight ends if they don't have someone like Bell. I think that the reason they had 4 tight ends last year is because Bell brought more of that blocking, and then he could somewhat catch, and he did run quarterback sneaks, and some of the plays built off of the sneaks since he played quarterback in college, I believe. So I think if they don't have Bell on this roster, I don't think they go with 4 tight ends, but we'll see.
Do you think Fortson and Gray have gotten better at blocking to where he's not needed?
I think if anything,
I would take that argument and be good with you saying that.
I think maybe our offensive linemen are better at catching enough to the point that they would feel comfortable not needing a 4th. I mean, it's hard. Bell, where Bell has excelled in the past is, as a pass blocking tight end, and to a lesser extent a run blocking tight end. So, that's kind of an iffy question, but at the same time, how much was he really on the field? And when he was on the field, and the times that he was going out for a pass, to me, he looked slow. So
agreed.
I think we have to have a completely different plan for handling quarterback sneaks in the future, because I mean it's obvious when we're going to do that, and Bell kind of hesitates too much now. All right, we want to go wide receiver next. When
Sure.
You guys want to start off with your wide receiver list?
Juju, MBS, Hardman, Moore, Gordon,
Justin Ross.
And Justin Ross.
Well, we have 5 out of the 6 the same here, and I know this is going to be This is the hot topic position, right? Brett Veach came out and said there would be 5 or 6 wide receivers, and we're in agreement on all of them, but Ross and Gordon. I mean, we're doing this way too early, but Gordon is really contingent on how much better he looks. And I'm not even going to say in a preseason game, heading up to a preseason game, because if he doesn't look better even heading up to a preseason game, I'm not sure he'll stay on the roster long. But if he
I
makes
agree
it
with
to
that.
if he makes it to preseason, then he's still gonna have to show, because I think there's great competition there. But I think Juju, MVS, Hardman, and Moore are for sure locked. So you're talking about 1 or 2 positions here, or players here at this
And I'm
position.
not
And
trusting Brett Veach to say, "Oh, we're only going to have 5 or 6 receivers," because Andy carried 7 or 8 last year. So if I'm going to have a sneaky 7, give me Darius Fountain.
well, he says that, but I think he's telling the truth, because I think they're gonna some of those guys are special teams players, and I think that they're going to get some of those special teams players from the DB room this year, because I think they want more DBs on this roster. Could be wrong, but Brett Veach for the most part is fairly transparent if you actually listen to what he says. So when he says 5 or 6, I tend to believe him, because with this roster, Travis is receiver number 1, right? Whether you put wide receiver on there or not, he's receiver number 1 in this offense.
Agreed.
And so we had 4 locks at wide receiver before this. If you count Gordon, that's 5 at wide receiver. If you put Travis in front of all of them, that's 6 receivers. If you expect them to actually utilize Clyde or one of the other running backs in the passing game, one of those guys is going to get more looks than wide receiver number 5. And so all of a sudden, wide receiver number 5 is looking to get the 8th, is the number 8 receiving target. And that's if Fortson isn't healthy, because if he's tight end number 2, then all of a sudden wide receiver number 5 is more like target number 9. And if wide receiver number 5 is target number 9, then wide receiver 6 is target number 10. And to have those guys on the team, if they go with 6, number 6 has to definitely play special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I don't have Justin Ross on my list, and I know that it's going to make Chiefs fans out there angry, but I want him nowhere near special teams. Even if he can take a hit during a reception, that's not the same thing. I mean, special teams is rough as is, let alone for someone who's had spinal fusion or whatever it was. That's utterly scary to me.
You've got a good point there for sure.
Now, someone could counter that they signed him to a 3-year deal, and I would grant that is fairly significant, but it wouldn't be the first time that we've thought that, some big name undrafted free agent is going to be the next big thing. I can throw out names like, and not even undrafted free agent, but last year a lot of Chiefs fans were utterly certain that Cornell Powell was not only going to make the team, but he was going to have a significant impact in the wide receiver room. The year before that, or 2 years before that, it was Jamal Custis, who we threw a lot of money for an undrafted free agent at, and he didn't make the team. So, I find it hard, and I find it hard for a multitude of reasons. One, this isn't an easy system for a wide receiver to come in and learn the playbook enough to play. And you've already seen I think it was Juju on Instagram or somewhere was posting about how he felt like he was back in school with how hard he was having to study to pick up this playbook. And that's an NFL veteran. And that's an NFL veteran who knows how to do everything else and doesn't have to worry about all these other things. Right now, he basically just has to focus on a playbook. If you start throwing rookies in there and they're having to learn the playbook, they're also having to learn to be a pro, and they're having to learn all these other nuances that a vet like Juju already knows. It's really hard to put those guys out there. Well, you drafted a rookie in Moore in the 2nd round. And so you have 3 new receivers that we've all agreed on are locks. One of them is a rookie, and 2 of them are new to this team in Juju and MVS. So you're going to have a whole wide receiver room besides Hardman, who doesn't even, is going to be learning the playbook. And you're going to have multiple guys who, whether undrafted free agent or a drafted player are going to be learning the playbook and learning the ropes of being an NFL player on this roster at wide receiver. So I find it really hard to believe. I think that, by the way, my sixth player was Fountain, and part of that was because he has the special teams experience. Now, he was kind of a fringe player last year, so he's going to have to take a step up. He's been in the NFL, even on practice squads for a couple of years. He's been in our building. He was on our active roster last year. He should know the playbook. So
I like him a lot.
I think that gives him a step up, and he played special teams. So I had Juju, Hardman, MVS, Moore, and Gordon, again, contingent on, continue looking better than he looked last year, and Fountain. I understand people putting Ross on there. I just think that if you put him on there,
He
you
won't
have
make
to have
it through waivers.
you got to put him in Gordon's spot. And I think it's just hard to have someone who can't play special teams and someone who is going to be learning the NFL and going to have to learn the playbook, have two rookies in this wide receiver room that makes up 2 out of 5 or 2 out of 6 of your receivers.
I could see more playing special teams, and the number 5 spot still usually plays special teams.
And I don't think that's Ross. Maybe it's Fountain. Maybe Ross is number 6 and Fountain is number 5. Then you're getting rid of Josh Gordon, and I know that's going to anger a lot of fans, but that would give you your special teams guy and someone who already knows the playbook in Fountain, and then Ross as wide receiver number 6. See, I just think it's hard though, because if you don't need him to play special teams, if you make up that special teams with the defensive back room, it's a completely different discussion, because then as wide receiver number 6, you're basically stashing him while not subjecting him through waivers and risking someone claiming him. Because as we said, wide receiver number 6 is going to be what? Target number 9 or 10, on this offense. So realistically, you would never have to have him see the field, unless there was an injury situation. Because you're going to have Travis, you're going to have Jody, you're going to have Juju, Hardman, MVS, Moore, at least one of the running backs, whether that's Clyde or Rojo. So that's 7 players right there. Fountain would be 8. So, if he was wide receiver number 6 and you got more special teams play from the defensive back room, I suppose you could do it, but that's about the only way I could realistically see it.
You definitely have a point, but yeah, I
Surprised
think
Gooch hasn't chimed in.
I think Moore ends up playing special teams, and Hardman may even.
Well,
but I don't see Schuster, MVS playing special teams, much less Gordon or Ross. You've got a definite point with Ross, but what I've seen of him so far, he looks to be healthy. And when he's healthy, he is good. He needs to be out on the field.
Well, it's kind of like a Stingley situation, right? He's been injured, and his tape from his freshman year looks much better than the most recent tape that we have on him. So it's kind of projection and hoping that, 1, he's healthy, and 2, that what you see looks more like that freshman year. All right, let's move on to offensive line. Aaron, you want to go first?
Sure. I've got Tooney, or let's go Brown, Tooney, Humphrey, Smith, Kennard, Niang being the swing tackle if he's healthy, and then I've got Wiley and Allegretti, so I am counting Niang.
Okay, and so you have 8 offensive line?
Yes, which I think we usually do 9 or 10.
Yeah, I have 9, and I don't have Niang on there, mostly because of Matt Derrick talking about that patellar tendon tear, and not only kind of the unknown recovery of that, but kind of he had mentioned that if players come back from this injury, their NFL careers usually last at best 1 to 2 more years, which is kind of concerning to me. Hopefully Niang can recover, but he's already had previous injuries before, so I don't even know if you could really trust him as a swing tackle or not at this point. But he's not on my 53-man roster. I have the same starting 5 that you have, Aaron. also have Allegretti and Wiley on there, and I also added Daryl Williams and Prince Tego Monago, something like that. Um,
Winnebago, as Bryce says.
maybe you think that Allegretti is the backup center, and maybe he is, but I'm putting Daryl Williams on there. They cut. I don't know why they brought Ryder back after letting him go for a year. They brought him back, and to me, is an awkward situation. You bring him back to back up player that you replaced him with in the draft, but they just cut him again. So, well, not again, but they just cut him. So, I put Daryl Williams on here because he's been the third center or fourth center, if you want to, however you want to look at it, with Austin Blythe on there last year and Allegretti's ability to play center. But I have Daryl on there as the backup center spot. And so I have 9 offensive linemen on there. Gooch, what do you have for your offensive line?
I would like to see Williams stick around. Who was the other one you said? Prince?
Prince.
I don't see him being on the roster, but I would accept Williams.
Well, without Niang, Prince is the only other player other than Tooney who's played left tackle out of either of our lists. So I mean, he's been on the lists as the backup left tackle. He hasn't been activated for any games that I know of. But
I don't know anything about Roderick Johnson. That name sounds familiar, but yeah. There's a Jaron Christian listed as a tackle, 6'5", 302, 25 years old, 5 years in the league out of Louisville.
Well, I guess Gooch agrees with me 100% with this one. So we're going to lock in his offensive line picks to be exactly the same as mine. So I have 26 players on offense. I carried one more quarterback than you guys did, but you carried one more tight end. Aaron, you had one less offensive lineman than me, so that should put you at what, 25?
Exactly.
Right, and then we have our 3 special teams locks with Butker and Townsend and the long snapper James Winchester. So that takes me to 29, takes you to 28. I have no idea about Gooch. So defense here.
And where do you want to start?
End or tackle, it doesn't matter.
I'll go ahead and say my starters, I guess, is Clark Jones, Noddy, Karlaftis, and then I am counting Ingram, and then I've got Wharton, Stallworth, Kando, and Herring. So I've got 9 defensive line.
Okay. Yeah, I have 9 on the defensive line as well, but I have Jones, Noddy, Stallworth, and Wharton inside, and then outside I have Karlaftis, Frank Clark, Melvin Ingram, who we think there's a decent chance will be back. I mean, he's been offered a contract. We're counting him for this purpose. And then I have Dana and Kando. Kando was always kind of a project pick anyway, I think. And he actually got playing time. He was on the active roster. And so I think that's kind of a big one. But yeah, but he was still on there. Even then he wasn't always active, but he was still on there, which is kind of a big thing.
Could you see him getting to the practice squad? Would we be able to pull that off? To keep, who did you say? There was somebody else you said that I didn't.
Dana?
Yeah.
I think that would be hard. I don't think they thought they could last year, and you're kind of stuck in a catch-22. You want him to get better, and the only way he's going to get better, other teams are going to see that, right? Like they did play him some, so he obviously, they felt comfortable with however raw he was, play him some, and they obviously either felt he was far enough, ahead that they didn't want to risk putting him on the practice squad, or they felt they would lose him.
Would you rather try that with Herring, or are you saying Herring is practice squad by not making the 53?
I would put Herring on the practice squad, and I would say that if you feel the way that you felt about Kando last year, now that you have, from everything I've heard, a better defensive line coach in Joe Cullen, you want to keep him on the active roster and see how he does with Joe. Now, that doesn't mean that come August or September, after working with him, Joe says, no, he's got to go. You keep him. And so for me, I got him on the active roster because, I mean, realistically, you have Karloftis, and as you said before, he can be moved inside on pass rushing situations. But next year, you're not going to have Frank. Next year, you're probably not going to have Ingram. And so I think ideally you want to see Kando reach his potential and keep him coming off the edge. So for me, that's what I have. So those are my 9. I'm not sure where Gooch is at here, but
I
we're gonna.
hated not picking Dana because yeah, they seem to really trust him. But yeah, who's your odd man out to put Herring on there?
Right.
I
And
picked Dana.
he's a solid player. So
Hmm.
if Herring or one of those guys ends up showing a solid floor, to where even if it's not exactly as high as Dana's is, you know, but their ceiling looks to be a lot higher, I think it's probably definitely worth the risk. But I'm kind of interested in seeing what these guys look like with Colin as the defensive line coach.
Definitely. And I guess we're back to the AK show.
Well,
Since that Brad guy
linebacker,
didn't want to talk, I'm guessing he got a call.
I had Bolton Gay, Dirty Death Row, Leo Chanel, and I had Carter, Jermaine Carter, and Mike Ross. I see the latter two, especially as special teams guys. Ross is an undrafted free agent who specializes in uh, pass coverage. So I'd see kind of that specialized role.
Who
Pass
was that?
coverage, Mike Ross. Special teams and pass coverage, and Jermaine Carter is a solid depth guy and also special teams linebacker.
And I've just got 4 so far. I'm sure this will change because this is the way too super early 53. I've got Gay, Bolton, Chanel, and Lee. Just the 4.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. I think someone like Herring, if he can play linebacker and play off the edge,
Which I think he could.
give some versatility there. But I mean, realistically, you don't need a lot of linebackers because you're only in base around 25% of the time. So, if you stay healthy, you're down to 1 or 2 linebackers on the field most of the time anyway. Now you would hope with, I know a lot of Chiefs fans out there, would hope this, and I'd be right there with them, that you can use Chanel like similarly to Micah Parsons, to where, just because you're not going to have him at linebacker doesn't mean you can't have him on the field and bringing him um, on pass rush on those passing downs. But yeah, for the most part, you probably don't need 5. I think, though, I have Ross on there, just because that was what he was good at, was as a coverage linebacker. And so it's a little bit of a niche, but it's a niche that Spags might like.
We've got so many DBs. I felt I should cut the linebackers a little short since we like to go with so many safeties.
All right, so for safeties, I had Thornhill and Reed and Cook. I think those are the 3 obvious ones. And then I had Zane Anderson and I believe Williams, who they have listed as a DB. So, I mean, you can go either way with that, with Joshua Williams. And so, however we want to do that, I have Williams and Watson, not Watson. Williams might be the only one on my list that's listed as a DB by the no, Zane Anderson's listed as a DB on the Chiefs roster. So Williams and Anderson, even though they're listed as DBs, are 2 guys that I threw in there with Reed, Thornhill, and Cook.
And I have the same starting three: Reed, Thornhill, and Cook. And then I've got Bush that we got from Chicago, and I've went ahead and put in Nizia Johnson, which, yeah, I'm not too sure. They could go Zane Anderson, they could go Key. It's hard to say there. But yeah, I included Williams into my corners personally. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
got five safeties, and I know nothing of Nazia Johnson, so I'm only throwing him in there because he was a pick.
Right. Yeah, and my feeling is that, we have 10 players that we drafted, 10 players that we drafted are not all making the roster. And so it's kind of, who is the odd man out? And I think at the very least, the players who are safe from our draft class are McDuffie, Karloftis, Skymore, and Brian Cook, and probably Kennard. And so that's half of them. It's the last half that I really don't have any certainty in saying, especially when Veach, had already mentioned that in post-draft press conference that he attacked the DB room because he didn't feel he'd be able to get those guys in undrafted free agency, that he wasn't going to be able to bring anyone in once they saw who was already on the roster, and that he drafted McDuffie. And so then you go out and you get Williams in the fourth. And so later on, it's kind of like no agent is going to steer their clients towards the Chiefs given their DB room. So Veach felt like if he wanted to increase the numbers in that room and increase the competition, he's going to have to draft guys. So I'm not saying he couldn't make it. He was a seventh rounder, I believe.
Yeah.
So at this very early point, since it's early May, I'm, yeah, it would be hard for me to put him on there.
And I don't blame you a bit. And McDuffie coming in is automatically at least the number 2 guy.
Right. So my cornerbacks, I have obviously Snead and McDuffie, right? Snead and McDuffie, Fenton. Even though I argued with Gooch about him on the huddle, I have Lonnie Johnson on here. And Watson, I think I had that right, Watson as well. And
Yeah, I like
I
that kid.
actually instead of having Williams with the safeties, I actually had him with the cornerbacks. My list kind of
Okay.
got blended there, but again, Williams and Zane Anderson, two of the players I had on there, the Chiefs have with a DB designation instead of corner or safety. So Snead, Fenton, McDuffie, Johnson, Williams, and Watson.
Okay, and I have Snead, McDuffie, Johnson, Williams, and Watson.
And I'd be surprised if it ends up that. I think we'll probably end up seeing a DiCaprio Boodle or, someone like that. Luke Baroque or whatever his name is. One of those two guys. I
They
could
did
see
seem to like him.
I could see one of those two guys making it as a cornerback number 6. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's really hard when you get to the end, right? We came up amongst the three of us with 35 locks that all of us agreed upon that we didn't fight over. And so that leaves you with 18 players, and maybe a half dozen of those players, it's probably going to come down to them being neck and neck, and Dave Tobe, coming in and saying, this is the guy that I want on special teams.
Yeah.
And so it really makes it hard, for us to go this deep and do a whole 53-man roster for that
It
reason.
seems like he does like Anderson for special teams too.
Yeah, and of course, my mind all I remember is the bad, but I just remember Zane Anderson. What was it? Was it a fair catch interference that he had on special teams, or something that just utterly screwed up a play for us? I don't even remember what it was. Oh,
He
I think
had a couple.
it was a hold. It was a hold on a kick return that was returned for a touchdown, if I recall correctly.
That's right. I do remember that.
It
I
was
think you're
that.
right on the other too, though.
No, I think I was wrong. I don't even know now. Maybe
Maybe
there
it
was
was Key.
maybe there was 2 or 3 or 4 plays, but I think there was also one where I'm fairly certain I'm right on this one. there was a play where he came aggressively at the punter and took a 15-yard flag for roughing the punter that gave somebody
A first down.
a pivotal first down. Right? It was one of
Seems
those
like it was
games.
the Bengals.
It probably was because it seemed like one of those games where our defense could not stop whoever we were playing, and so for a special teams player to screw up so badly that you're giving them a first down when they had to punt was a huge momentum shift. And so, but yeah, I don't know. They love their BYU players. So that I had 24 players on defense, 26 players on offense, and 3 on special teams. You know,
I
that's
had the
fairly
25 and
balanced.
25, and
Right.
then the 3 special teamers.
So we're all fairly balanced offense and defense.
And we're
We'll
just a
see.
little off on basically the back part of the defense, mid and back.
And who really knows what they will do? I mean,
We're so far away from seeing really anything.
Right. Yeah, I
I'll get
think,
some kind of judgment from preseason and going to camp.
right. As of right now, the only thing that's happened after the draft is rookie mini camp. So we
And I haven't seen much.
so we
I've only
really don't
seen
have
that
much to
little
go
clip
on.
of Ross.
I think we could probably give a fairly solid 45. You know, we did 35. I think we could do a solid 45, but you know, those last 8 spots are really going to come down, I think, to the most part, to special teams versatility and playing solid special teams. And you can't know that till you see preseason games.
Right. I think we all ended up with Allegretti and Wiley, 2 that we didn't lock into that 35 that they could possibly be locked into. I don't remember if we did or not. Do you?
Thought we did. Thought we had 7 offensive linemen that we locked in there, but it doesn't matter now. Gooch isn't here anymore, so I locked in all. Actually, I should go through and
We
lock
were
in
right.
some bad picks for him.
This just proves we were right. Whatever he was trying to say at the beginning.
Gooch got so afraid of us being right that he just utterly left. He quit.
Made another AK show.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining in and watching our program on our channel. I want to remind you, if you liked this video, to hit the thumbs up, to leave a comment. We love getting comments, love getting questions. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and go ahead and share Twitter, any other social media. We look forward to building this channel and building a community together with you guys.
Thank you, and we'll be back.
All right, this is where Gooch would say a bunch of stuff and top it off with reminding you to tell someone that you love them. Don't let another day, let another moment go by without saying that. So I'll say that on Gooch's behalf, and so we're going to end the show. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next time.